all stand and worship our unstoppable God.
Heaven thundered and the world was born. Life begins and ends in the dust you form. Faith commanded and the mountains moved. Fear is losing ground to our hope in you. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Freedom conquered, all our chains undone. Sin defeated, Jesus has overcome. Mercy triumphed when the third day dawned. Darkness was denied when the storm was gone. Oh, unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Whoa. Let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done.
Well, in the spirit of unstoppable God, I figured I would want to make it really clear to you. So we're going to sing a song that's basically about the same thing. There's nothing that our God can't do.
Just one word, you calm the storm that surrounds me. Just one word, the darkness has to retreat. Just one touch, I feel the presence of heaven. Just one touch, my eyes were open to see. My heart can't help but believe. And there's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that He can't move. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Just one word, you heal what's broken inside me. Just one word, and you revive every dream. Just one touch, I feel the power of heaven. Just one touch, my eyes were open to see. My heart can't help but believe. And there's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that He can't move. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. No, there's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a prison wall He can't break through. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Do you believe that right now? There's nothing that He can't do. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise, let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise, let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise, let all agree. There's no power like His power. There's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that He can't move. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. No, there's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a prison wall He can't break through. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. There's nothing that our God can't do.
Go ahead and be seated, please.
Lord bless you and keep you. Make His face
I love the song. I love the song and the message of it. I have to confess, usually on Monday mornings when I go in the office and I'm there early by myself, there's a YouTube version of that song, and I turn it on really loud. But what an encouraging message to understand the blessing that He's with us, He's for us, and all around us, and He gives us this great promise that can be to our children and their children. It's a great message. It sends chills up and down my spine. But to think about the blessing, what is a blessing? How do we get a blessing? And I disagree with the song a little bit in the sense that it doesn't tell the whole story. You see, it takes scripture largely from Deuteronomy 28. And in that scene, Moses gathered the people of Israel, and it was his last talk with them. He knew that he was going to go on and that they were going to go into the promised land. And he talked about the way that the Lord blessed them, the way that He had been with them and had protected them. And but He also warned them. He said, there will come a time when you will take these blessings for granted, and you will think that you got them because you're just so good at what you do. And He warned them that the blessing would become a curse if they quit following after the Lord. And so what He really did was He presented them with a choice. He says, you have a choice. If you continue to follow the Lord and His word, then He will continue to bless you and protect you and give to you. But if you don't, if you stop and you turn away, then all the blessings will become curses. And so, how do we get a blessing? A lot of times people will say to you, have a blessed day. My brother-in-law does that every time we talk. And it's not luck. It's not, gee, I hope that happens. I hope God's good to me today. It's a choice. God actually says, you have the choice whether I bless you or not. It's in your hands. And so as we sing the song and as we come to this moment of coming and talking to God, the time of communion, we're confronted with a choice. It's a choice that I have every Monday morning when I play the song. It's a choice that I had this morning. It's a choice that we have now as we come before God. You may come not feeling very blessed. Maybe it wasn't a great week. You may feel like it hasn't been a great year and I don't remember the blessing. If we think about it, we will. But right now, the great thing about the blessing is that we can choose it right now. And He calls us to that as we draw close to Him. Whatever's happened before, whatever your week, your year, whatever your whole life has been like, you come before Him and you can choose blessing. You can choose that relationship with Him. As we take the communion, let's reflect on the choice that's before us. humbled that you would choose us to be your people, that you would choose to always have your eyes on us and watch us and protect us. Thank you so much for that, and thank you that ultimately you did that at the expense of your Son. So help us, Father, to choose you today, every day, for all of our lives, to follow you, to follow your ways and not our own, and bring us safely to that place when we can be with you forever. We ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Good morning. Welcome to FCC Winter Park. We're so glad you're here. Whether you're here in person or watching online, we love the fact that we're just able to get together, worship together, enjoy one another's company and fellowship. If you are here with us for the first time, we'd love to connect with you this week. So all we simply ask is that you just text FCC guest to 94,000, and one of our staff will reach out this week and just have anything you want to talk about, we'll be able to do that as well. Just a few things to announce. If you did not know, today we started back Sunday school across our campus. If you were able to be here, we thank you for that. Hope you had a good first Sunday. So at 9:45 a.m. now, between our services, we're having Sunday school. So if you come and you don't know where to go and you get lost, the largest class and the easiest to get to is right across this courtyard is our fellowship hall. And Preston is teaching a class on the life of Christ in there. But we have classes for our children, for our middle school, high school. We have a brand new young adults class that started today, and we have 2 adult classes as well. So there's different opportunities to come. So hopefully you can join us next week. You're not going to be behind. You just be 1 week, right? Just read the book of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you'll be caught up. But we look forward to that. If you have any questions, just ask us out in the lobby afterwards about what class is best for me and where should I go and those kinds of things. So it was a great first day, good kickoff. Also happening this week at Kissimmee Christian Church is the Florida Bible Conference. And there are brochures out there in the lobby if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about that. But that begins Monday evening through Wednesday evening. Lots of teaching, lots of workshops, lots of worship, special music things going on. But our own Preston Free will be speaking at 11 a.m. on Wednesday morning. If you want to come, sit in the front row, heckle him, whatever. See if he's talking about the same thing he's talking about this morning. That's going on. It's free. It's offered by, like I said, Kissimmee Christian Church, and there's more information in the lobby if you got some time and you want to go check that out this week. I also wanted to share one last really interesting, exciting thing that took place at the beginning of this year. As maybe some of you do, reworking maybe your home budgets at church. And, we voted on your home budgets at home. We voted on our church budget last month, but that also has an effect on our missions budget and how we give to our missionaries and the missions that we support. And we were able to increase the giving to every single missionary and missionary organization that we support across the board. And yes. One of note and of significance was that we were able to elevate our giving to Lake Aurora Christian Camp, where we send our kids in the summer. It's our local Christian camp, so we're excited to really increase that giving for all the work that they do. As well as in the next few weeks, we're going to share with you some of the new missions that we're supporting and what they do and who they are. And another thing, people have been asking about our newest missionaries, Caleb and Elena Elkins. We were able to be a part of getting them to 100% support so that they are now able to start the process and have already started the process of background checks in Ireland, visas in Ireland, and getting all that. So if there's anything you need to pray about this week, pray for Caleb and Elena Elkins to hear back good news, to get that ball rolling. So maybe in just a few weeks, if not a month, they will be in Ireland serving the Lord for a first 3-year commitment. They'll be there for 3 years before they even take a break to come back to the States. So we just want to keep that in prayer. But it's because of your faithful giving and because of what God has been doing through that faithful giving that we were able to elevate our mission giving, able to add new missionaries, able to do so much more. So thank you as a church on behalf of what's happening all around the world. So we're excited about that. And then this next Sunday night at 6 o'clock will be our first training for our team of missionaries that we're sending to Arizona in June. So we have 16 members of this church that are going to be going to Arizona to work with Lifeline Christian Mission and the Navajo Nation. So if you're part of that, this Sunday night, 6 o'clock in the youth room, we'll start that training. And we're really excited not only to be sent by this church to do that, but to bring back and share with you what we did, what we experienced, and what the impact was, again, of God being able to send us. So a lot's happening in this church, if you don't think it's happening in the world. Lots of stuff's going on here, and we're just excited about those things. Just a minute, Preston's going to come forward. We're still studying through the book of Mark, but we're going to start a new series and look at it in a new and fresh way. So it's good to see you today.
The monkey business illusion. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the ball. The correct answer is 16 passes. Did you spot the gorilla? For people who haven't seen or heard about a video like this before, about half missed the gorilla. If you knew about the gorilla, you probably saw it. But did you notice the curtain changing color or the player on the black team leaving the game? Let's rewind and watch it again. Here comes the gorilla, and there goes a player, and the curtain is changing from red to gold.
All right, let's be honest. Who was the gorilla? Some of you knew about that information, so that probably, helps you figure that out. I really didn't like that because, by the way, I knew about the gorilla, but I missed the change in the color and player dropping out. I didn't see that. I just think it's just a reminder sometimes that, they do this with executives and things like this. People miss their gorilla moments. That they're so focused on the task at hand, whatever they're doing, they don't miss some of these big things around them. They're like oblivious to it. It's kind of like in our lives sometimes we're so focused on the calendar, things going on with our family, and emergencies come up that we don't, sometimes we miss God in the process. What he's trying to do. And so, now that I got my mic on, you can hear me. I think that really illustrates what happened with Jesus and his disciples. So they were supposed to see the obvious. They were supposed to see that which was just right in front of them, but so many times they missed it. And that's really going to kind of set things up for what we're going to look at a little bit later. Because Jesus is going to tell them, guys, are you so dull? Stupid? I mean, you got eyes, but you don't see. You have ears, but you really don't hear. And the answer is, yeah. They're just like me. They're embarrassing, right? That's why I love these guys. They're just a reflection of you and I. They miss these obvious moments where they should get it and they don't. And again, that's going to set things up as far as what he's going to do in this text that we'll talk about later. But what we have here, though, we're going to see is one of the most unlikely things in the ministry of Jesus. In fact, it's the only place you find this story is right here in Mark chapter 8, where he performs a miracle, which, hey, that's not unusual for Jesus. That's kind of par for the course. But it's the way he does this miracle, that is what's different. He's never done one like this before. Jesus has brought to him a man who's blind. He puts his hands on the guy to see, and when he takes his hands off, the guy's kind of like, well, I see, but not really. Things are sort of foggy. They're not really clear. I can see something over yonder, but I can't make out if that's a tree or a person. And everything's sort of disoriented. Therefore, Jesus has to once again put his hands back on the guy a second time, and then his sight's completely restored. And it's really an unusual set of verses and has some people scratching their heads and some skeptics, commentators thinking, what's going on here? Is Jesus just having a bad day? Is he, it's just too much for him? The pressure, the crowds, the amount of miracles he's doing, maybe this guy needed a second dose of his power because his power wasn't up to par that day. It wasn't instantaneous. Because whereas before, think about it, he would heal people. Like, remember the lepers? He said, you're cleansed and you're healed. It happened right away. Or the guy who was a paralytic, he couldn't walk, and Jesus says, take up your mat and go home. Well, the guy got up and he didn't limp, did he? No, I mean, he was restored right away immediately, instantaneously. Or the guy when Jesus, who had this withered hand and Jesus healed it, it was right at that moment. This guy didn't have to go to rehab for 6 weeks, I mean, it was, whereas before it was always instantaneous, complete. Here it's more piecemeal. He lays his hands on the guy. Before he can't see, and then he lays his hands on him, and then he can see a little bit, and then he has to lay his hands on him again, and so he can see completely. And then he asked this question. He's going to ask him, do you see anything? Does Jesus not know? Again, is it just because Jesus is unsure of his powers? Is he just, lacking the poise, the self-assurance like he did earlier in Mark? And you sort of begin to scratch your head thinking, what's going on here? Something's different. And it's not easy to figure out on the surface. You think, why is this healing here? Why is this put here? And if you read the rest, if you just read this healing and just kind of lift it out of its context, and that alone is sort of confusing. But only when you begin to put this healing in the bigger context of what's going on with Jesus and his ministry, it's kind of like, I see. Because this is sort of like a microcosm, a miniature version of what's going on around him with people trying to understand who he is and his person. And because what happened to this blind man is happening to his own disciples and happens to you and I. You think about it. Isn't it true when we first become a believer in Jesus, things aren't always really clear? I mean, sure, Jesus come into our lives, we come into the light, there's a new perspective, and we're coming out of the dark, and we're seeing things better, but man, there's still a lot of learning to go. There's still a lot of growing and maturity to reach, and it doesn't come overnight. It comes in steps. It's kind of like one step forward, sometimes 2 steps back. So in many ways, here's God working with us like he's working with this blind man. He's very patient along the way. Give us a lot of time to grasp some of these realities. It's like me as a dad with my kids, especially when they're so young. I'll get out and we'll go to Publix or Walmart, go into a store, and I got 1 or 2 with me. I don't have all 5 of them sometimes. And I forget, even though they're growing up a little bit, I'll just start walking the store and all of a sudden I look back and they're 10 paces behind me, right? This ever happened to you as a parent, And you're like almost in the store and they're like still getting out of the car. There's just like a couple steps and it's kind of like, whoops, It's not that bad, but you know what I mean. I'm like, their legs are this little and they can't keep up with dad's strides. And so it's kind of like, okay, go slow down, go with them, just enjoy the journey. It's not just the destination with kids, is it? And hold their hand or whatever. And that's my Heavenly Father with me, with you. Oh, I got to slow down. There's Preston. He's way back there, Okay, let's just do it a little slower, right? Okay, yeah. That's Jesus with this blind man. That's God, our Father, with us. Just taking time, being patient. It's like what I read over in Jeremiah. In Jeremiah, the 18th chapter, God's having a conversation with his prophet, an Old Testament prophet named Jeremiah. And in the middle of this conversation, it's kind of like he says, time out. Let's stop this conversation here. I want to end it over another place. And Jeremiah's got to be thinking, why can't we just finish it here, God? And he says, no, let's go over here to this potter's house. You know, a guy who makes pottery. And then what I'm telling you, it will begin to make sense. So he does it, and he goes over there, and he goes in this potter's house, and he's going to see this picture, this potter working with this pottery, and this image is going to burn in his mind. He's going to see that he's working with it, and he's very patient with it, you know, and even though it's imperfect, even though it's not right, he doesn't throw it in the garbage, he just keeps working with it, and he realizes, listen, the clay is the potter's, not vice versa. He makes the decisions, he's very patient, and he works with it. And that image, when he sees that, it's kind of like, now I get it, God. What you're trying to tell me, some of these spiritual realities, it makes more sense now that I've got this picture in my mind of how you are working with me and try to mold me and shape me into something beautiful. I think that's going on with what's going on with the disciples and Jesus in his ministry. He's going to use this miracle and try to explain them some spiritual realities. And these guys are slow to get things. They've been with Jesus about 2.5 years already. And they catch on, they're getting some things, but not everything. They recognize Jesus is the Messiah. In fact, Peter does this in this chapter, Mark chapter 8. He says, I know who you are, Jesus. You're the Christ. You're the Messiah. And he's right, but yet they don't really comprehend what kind of Messiah he is, what kind of king he's going to be. Because Jesus goes on to explain, let me tell you what kind of Messiah I'm going to be. I'm going to be a Messiah in not too long from now. I'm going to go over here to Jerusalem, and I'm going to suffer. In fact, I'm going to die, but on the third day I'm going to rise again. And they were so shocked at that Peter has the audacity to rebuke very strongly Jesus. Talk about the gall. Here's Peter rebuking Jesus, saying, no, that's not the kind of Messiah you're going to be. We're not going to allow that, because in their minds, in the first century, they have these preconceived ideas that the Messiah was going to rule over Rome, throw them out, they were going to conquer, he's going to sit on the throne, Jesus is going to pick out his cabinet members, and all these things. And in Peter's mind, what Jesus is telling him, it just didn't compute, it didn't add up. That's not the kind of Messiah that we're thinking about. And Jesus has to tell Peter, get behind me, Satan. In other words, you're thinking like the enemy. You just don't get it yet. You don't understand that this is who the Messiah is. This is me. And they're struggling. You see what's going on in the lives of these disciples? They're there, but they're not all the way there. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of fogginess. Things are still unclear in their minds of who Jesus really is in his ministry, what he's trying to accomplish. And so in the middle of all that misunderstanding, we get this healing of a blind man. It's not just a healing, it's a parable of sorts. It's something thrown alongside a spiritual truth to help give us insight into the realities of what's going on. You think about it, when we come out of the waters of baptism, we got it all together, don't we? I mean, we don't struggle with our thoughts. We don't say any more curse words, and we're just as pleasant as can be. I mean, come on. I mean, that takes a lifetime, really. We're just walking in that direction, and it's a slow process where God begins to knock off the rough edges, and so we can have our thoughts think things that are pure, and we could, be good to our neighbor and such. But it's kind of like a roller coaster. Our Christian life, we got some highs, especially when we start out, and then there's some lows. And days we feel like I just want to give up. But here's God, he's very patient, like he's going to be with this blind man, gradually helping us see clearly. And we're glad that Jesus is patient with us too. So that's a lot of background, I know. Kind of like what we did in Sunday school this morning, right? We did a lot of historical background before we get into the text. So with that in mind, we're going to turn to Mark chapter 8. Let's unpack these truths, if you will. What does it mean to live your life with Jesus? Going the extra mile, walking with Jesus. Look at verse 22. It says, they. Now, who's the they? The they is Jesus and the 12 disciples. They come to this place called Bethsaida, and some people brought a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. Now listen, we all need friends like this in our life, don't we? Who will bring us to Jesus. You know, you're not an island. I know sometimes we think we just want to be by ourselves and be on our own, and you know, I can make it, but there's no such thing as the church of the Lone Ranger. I mean, there are going to be days in your life when you feel like you don't want to make a connection with God. You don't even want to try to. But in those moments like this, you need friends to come alongside you to help lift you up, encourage you. Hey, listen, quit having a pity party for yourself. Quit feeling sorry. And they're going to help you look up into your eyes and see Jesus. There are times you just need that nudge in the right direction. It's like the lady who started Weight Watchers. They were interviewing this lady, and they asked her, hey, what got you into this line of work, helping people lose weight? She said, it started back when I was a teenager. I would walk home from school every day, and I had to cut through the park. And I go through the park, and there are all these moms over there gathered in a mom's group, and they're all just talking away. They're kind of lost in conversation. And here's their toddlers over here in the swing, and nobody's pushing them. And so she said, I just dropped my backpack, went over there and just started pushing these little kids. He said, you know what happens when you start pushing little kids? Those kids get those legs pumping, and before you know it, they're doing it on their own. She said, I feel that's kind of my role in life now. I just kind of give people that gentle push in the right direction until they get going on their own. You know, that's why God gave us the church. The church is obviously not a building. It's people. People I need, people you need to come alongside us to encourage us, because, look, we all kind of hit the wall sometime. And we all kind of get down in the dumps spiritually. And so we need those people who will give us a gentle nudge, a little push in the right direction to get us going, to remind us of the joy we have in Jesus, remind us of what we got ahead of us, help us see a little bit better. And so here's Jesus, or here's this guy standing before Jesus, and what does our Lord do for him? He took the blind man by the hand, and he led him outside the village. This is a great scene right here. It's Jesus leading this guy by the hand. And listen, if Jesus is leading you, rest assured, you're okay. He's safe, he's secure. He didn't have to worry about falling or tripping. Now that Jesus is directing his steps, he can rest easy. Whew, I can relax. This guy doesn't have the foggiest notion what's up ahead of him, but the only thing he knows, that's the only thing he really needs to know, is Jesus has got my hand. Who knows what's going to happen the rest of this year? And I know sometimes we get all worried, and we can get, you read comments on social media, and sometimes there's no difference between Christians and non-Christians. I think, do you realize who has our hand? I don't care where 2021 takes us. Do you realize nothing that happens, no matter who ascends is in the seats of power in this country, can take away the fact that Jesus Christ has died for me and you? That he has risen from the grave and defeated death, and that we have a home in heaven. Nothing in 2021 can take away that. Nothing in 2020 took away that fact, did it? Why do we act like it sometimes? I got the joy, joy, joy. You hear that? Down in my heart. And there's nothing that Satan can do. There's nothing that the world can do. I don't care what happens in politics. It doesn't affect me as a father, as a husband, as a preacher, as a neighbor, does it? I don't care what they do over there. In a sense, it doesn't affect what's going on right here and the truth of the gospel that transcends time and politics, right? Amen? Well, wonderful picture here. Jesus leading this guy, and that's where he can't see, but doesn't matter. He knows he's going to be saved now. But then Jesus is going to do something a little bit strange. It's almost going to seem like an insult. And it kind of questions what's going on here. Look at the rest of verse 23. He says, when he led him outside the village, he spit on the man's eyes and put his hands on him and asked, do you see anything? Listen, if somebody spits in my eye, I'm thinking, you've just insulted me, man. You don't have good intentions. You just spit a loogie in my eye, you know? Is that what's going on? Of course not. In the first century, they actually believed that spit, saliva had a medicinal value to it. We believe the same thing. We do, really. When you cut your finger, burn your finger, what's the first thing you do to that thing? You put it, that wetness, that saliva, we think it's something, it gives it, and it really does kind of gives it a soothing effect, doesn't it? You see what Jesus is doing here? Just like when he healed that deaf man and he put his hands on his ears and he spit on his tongue. I'm about to bring some soothing relief to you, some comfort to you. I'm going to heal these eyes. Such tenderness wasn't an insult. In verse 24, he looked up, he said, I see people, they look like trees walking around. I can't tell if that's an oak tree or a person over there. I think what we have here, though, is a reminder of what happens in our lives many times as Christians. Our lives with Jesus, there are times in our lives where things aren't clear, they're a little bit fuzzy, they're confusing. We don't perceive things, and they're there, but it's like that gorilla moment. We miss it. And a lot of times it's because I'm just selfish, or because there's sin going on in our lives. And we harbor that, and we can't see those things that God wants us to see. Back in the year 1752, Benjamin Franklin invented the lightning rod. Remember in history books about that? But for the longest time, churches wouldn't put those on their buildings because they thought, no, that's interfering with God's sovereign right to strike down sinners. So churches, what they do, they would, I guess the guy volunteered that he would be the bell ringer. Go up in these big belfries and they'd ring the bell to warn all the people in the community, hey, a storm's coming our way and we need to pray so that, God can protect us. Problem is, when you put a guy up there in the top of the building, ring the bell in a storm, what happens to that guy? So a bunch of them were dying. And they continued this for years, like, we're not going to put these lightning, rods up there until the year 1769. There was a church over in Italy, in Europe. They had this underground, basement in their vault. And in this vault, they were storing gunpowder, over 100 tons of gunpowder. Now, what a church is doing storing gunpowder? But they were. You know where this is going, right? Lightning bolt hit that church and kaboom! Blew that thing to smithereens and killed about a sixth of the town. About 3,000 or so people died that day. You know what happened? All across Europe, all across America, they started putting lightning rods up in the churches. All of a sudden, they could see the light. Oh, okay, now we'll do that. Unfortunately, we're too like those people. We're like this blind man here sometimes. Our perception of reality, we can see, but not really. And it should be obvious, but we don't get it. Sometimes it's sin, or stubbornness, or just maturity. And Jesus comes along, and he not only needs to touch us one time, but for me, it's second and third and fourth time, right? His grace and his mercy. So that I can see some of these things, these spiritual realities that he wants me to see. Look at verse 25. He says, once more. This is such a great thing here. Because you and I, when we get frustrated, we're working with people, even the church, it's kind of like, no more. Not once more. That's it, I'm done. But here's Jesus. He never loses his patience. He's like that potter working with the clay. This didn't work out the first time. Let's keep doing this. Let's try to keep shaping and molding this thing till we make it something really special. And he keeps working with that old piece of pottery or that clay until it's a work of art. And so with these words, once more, we see the heart and the love of Jesus for us. Once more, Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes, and then his eyes were opened. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Do you realize that's going to be our experience one day? There's going to come a day when we see all things perfectly. And the world we're headed for is as good as it can be, and the best thing we've ever laid our eyes on. And we're going to see it for all its glory. And we'll not just see these wonderful things, we'll experience them ourselves. All that because the one who's touched us and made us well for all eternity. until that day, by the way, this world is not the best of all worlds. Some people want it to be. And so they put all their chips in this world. But Jesus told us that's not going to be the case. There is a world coming and we'll be able to see perfectly. But until then, life's going to be difficult. Imagine this. Imagine this, the year 1875. You're over here in South Africa in the mountains. You're mining for diamonds or digging for diamonds. And you're out in the middle of nowhere. That's okay. You know, no one can really find you because you don't want to be found. You're just digging for treasure over here, diamonds. But then all of a sudden a courier finds you. Lo and behold, he gets a hold of you. He shows up and he says, hey, listen, I got a message for you. Your uncle, your rich uncle back in San Francisco has died and has left you his estate. And you know this uncle. You've been out to his place out there in San Francisco. He's got the mansion on the hill. He's got the country house over there. I mean, this guy's loaded. And now it's all mine? Are you kidding me? I don't believe it's too good to be true, but it is. And you know what? You're thinking, man, this guy, and all those houses, get all those clothes, they're mine. All that money in the bank, it's mine. This guy had a front row seat in every venue in town, every sporting event, every restaurant. I mean, just first class service, right? Now that's waiting for me, but it's not mine yet. In a sense, because I got to get to San Francisco to meet with the estate attorney to finalize it. But it's gonna be mine. It's just, I got to get there. And I'm like, how am I going to do that? Well, the courier's thought about this. All expenses paid. He's got an envelope full of cash. Everything's going to be taken care of me to get there. But getting there, it's not going to be easy. It's 1875. It's going to take me 3 weeks to walk down these mountains there. And then when I get to the coast there at Cape Town, I can't take a plane. I got to take this boat across the Atlantic Ocean, dangerous seas, rough water. It's going to take 3 months to do this. And then I finally, get to New York. And then I can't rest easy because I got to take a stagecoach. And that's going to take another 6 months, a long, hard, bone-jarring journey. I got to worry about Indians. I got to worry about all these bandits on the road. But man, when I finally get there, it's all mine. Was it worth it, that trip? You bet it was. Was it dangerous and difficult? You better believe it. Listen, isn't that what we go through as Christians on this earth? God talks about we have this inheritance, it's stored up for us, and God sometimes gives us these glimpses, these little foretastes of what it's going to be like. And even though it's just a sampling, it's hard to wrap our mind around just how good it's going to be. And it's going to be a new heavens and a new earth and a new body, and we know it's going to be as good as it can be. But until then, it's not difficult. But I promise you, one day you're not going to have to wait in line to go see the doctor. You're not going to have to wait 2.5 hours to get tested to see if you got the coronavirus or not. Or worry about if you're going to get the shot. You're not going to worry about your parent dying and then getting Alzheimer's and suffering. You don't worry about one of your children getting hurt. You're not going to worry about going to the dentist anymore, and those cavities. You're not going to worry about any more diseases, no more divorce. All those things will be a thing of the past. No more mourning, no more tears. It will be. But we're not there yet. But I'm going to tell you, it is worth it to do whatever you can to make sure you're there. But this is not glory yet. But Jesus wants to take you by the hand. He wants to lead you there. Some of you have not done that yet. Some of you need to make that decision that I believe that Jesus is who he says he is. He has demonstrated that through his word and the power of his resurrection, and I want to give my life to him in front of everybody. I confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. And you can baptize me today. And for the rest of us who know that, keep hanging on to his hand, right?
Let's all stand, sing our invitation song. If you have a decision you'd like to make, you can do that right now. Preston just called for that. He's down here ready to talk to you. We'd love to do that. If you're watching online, or if you just need a few minutes to think about it, you can text FCC Decide to 94,000. Let's sing, Lord, I Need You. Younger, we would take a trip to Michigan every summer. And we'd pack up in the car and we would drive that long trip up there, the 6 of us. And it was back in the days before cell phones. A lot of you know about this. You didn't have cell phones to entertain you. And when you weren't listening to the radio, you were just singing songs yourselves, right? And so we would sing all kinds of songs. My dad taught us all kinds of songs from his childhood. I have passed those songs on to my children, like a good father should. And my dad also, he would make up songs all the time. I think that's where I got it, because I do that too. Like, I'll just make up songs for anything the kids are doing at any given time. But he would make up songs, and there's one song that sticks with me. I still remember it. He only sang this song one time, and yet I still remember it. It went something like this. We were driving through Ohio. We were about 30 miles south of the border. We were driving north to Michigan, and my dad started singing this song. Only 30 more miles to Michigan. Only 30 more miles to there. Only 30 more miles to Michigan. And all I can say is, who cares? Only 29 3/4 miles to Michigan. He sang that song all the way down to it's a quarter more mile to Michigan. And we could see that state sign coming up in the distance. And he timed that out perfectly so that at the end, and all we can say is, we're there. And we passed the state line right as he finished the song. And I gotta tell you, I thought my dad was awesome. I mean, that was just the coolest thing. I couldn't believe that he was able to do that. And it wasn't until years later that I realized what he was doing was he was using the mile markers, and he was using his odometer, and he was adjusting his tempo so that he could time it just perfectly. But he had information that I wasn't privy to. As we think about our walk with Jesus, we need to remember that God has information that we aren't privy to. He has been planning this destination out for us for 6,000, 8,000 years. And he knows how much longer it's gonna be till we get there. He knows that, we don't know. But he is in control, year by year, day by day, minute by minute. We know that if we put our trust in him, if we put our faith in him, we are gonna reach that destination. Let's close with Unstoppable God.
Heaven thundered and the world was born. Life begins and ends in the dust you formed. Faith commanded and the mountains move. Fear is losing ground to our hope in you. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Hope you all have a great week. We'll see you next time.